This is the Speakeasy podcast where we go behind the scenes talking about what it means to be the successfully paid speaker or author. I'm your host, Altavis Pelzer, founder of the World Voice League, a virtual network of female speakers coming together to impact social change. Guys, listen, transformational journey of an author and speaker. There's so many things that come into our lives in this journey before you start, when you start, and as you're trying to grow. There will be so many things that you come in contact with, and we're going to be hitting on a few of those things today with our special guest. So hello, Chuck.
Hello.
Thanks
for having me.
I'm thankful for you being on the show today. I always appreciate having great guests. So Chuck, let the studio audience know a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dive into today's topic.
Well, right now I've been a real estate developer, investor, and speaker for really almost 48 years now. And I'm only 29, so I don't know how that happens. But I started early in my business, and I had a really rough time getting started in business as an independent entrepreneur. I had my own real estate business when I started, and didn't make very much money for about 10 years. And I was really, really, really struggling. And and then I started getting a little business, but then I had a divorce and became a single parent. So I was a single parent raising 4 of my 5 kids, and traveling on work and doing consulting and barely making a living. I don't know if anybody can relate to that out there, but that's what it looked like for me. In fact, as when Mother's Day come around, I think I should get a Mother's Day present, because that's, I was father for about 8 years, and then I'll tell you the rest of that later. But I got finally in. I became a real estate developer for real when I had this breakdown. Can I talk about a breakdown I had? Because I tell you what, I've learned more from my breakdowns than I ever have from my successes. So there's the breakdowns are. Anymore, I see a breakdown coming, I think, okay, what am I going to learn here I can use? But I was back in I can tell you when it was 1990. I just come back from I started investing in rewiring my brain, you might say. I was doing some personal development courses, and I just saw the gap between where I was and where I wanted to be. And it was heartbreaking to me, and I was sitting on my floor in my bedroom when I came back from one course, and I was bawling my eyes out, and like the world was not fair. This was not fair. Why can't I get ahead? I'm smart. I've studied. I got a degree in real estate. I mean, I should be able to make a really good living. And then all of a sudden, I'm sitting there bawling my eyes out, blaming the universe, blaming my ex-wife, blaming, blame. And then I had this moment, and the moment was, well, you're doing everything by yourself. And it was like, no, I'm not. And then it was like the revelation. I was a single parent, no partner, by myself. I had my own business by myself. I was raising my kids to some great extent by myself, though I had some help from my mom and dad, but I was still by myself. And I saw that was holding me back in my business and my personal life. And that was a revelation, because I would have said I was a real good people person. I was involved with other people. And the truth was, while I could talk to people, I had struggled with having people be partners with me, you could say. That partners was a breakdown I had. That I had no partnership in my family life and no partnership in my business. And so I resolved I was going to do something about that. So that's one of the things I found, that in the middle of the failure, a resolution, what you're going to do, it makes a huge difference. So the next morning I called the richest real estate investor developer I knew in my town, which was Wichita, Kansas at the time. And I called, I said, I need to talk something out with you. I just need to figure something out. And I went, and he graciously gave me a couple hours, and we sat and we talked, and I told him what I was struggling with. And at the end of that time, he offered me a partnership in a new development company he was forming. I get moved by just thinking about it. He offered me this new partnership, and in buying and remodeling and building self-storage projects in the South. And because he was a guy that was one of the founders of the self-storage industry. So we started working together, and I made far more money being his partner than I ever made being 100% owner of my own company. And so it was that was the breakthrough result I got. Was I made a lot of money, but I also had a partner in who I was doing business with, and it just started to become a theme for me. So that was one of those big breakdowns that turned into a breakthrough, because I was willing to talk to somebody about my failure rather than to pretend everything was perfect.
So you hit on so many huge and important topics. One of the things that I want to, reiterate was the piece of, listen, we have to be comfortable in talking about our uncomfortability. Mm-hmm. Let's just be real. We have to be able to talk about what it is that's not going right, because we can never fix where the problems are. We can never find where the cracks in the foundation are if we're not saying, hey, there's a leak. Mm-hmm. There's something really wrong. There's something going on. I'm leaking money. I'm leaking time. I'm leaking energy. I'm leaking joy, peace. There's something leaking out, and we need to figure out where this leak is so that way it can be fixed. And so in our businesses, that I think that's a huge issue, when it comes to the speaker and the author, because nobody wants to be the broke speaker or the broke author, but nobody wants to talk about the fact that they're not making book sales. They don't want to talk about the fact that they're not getting paid speaking opportunities. And so the fact that you had that revelation speaks volumes about you, because it's a personal journey.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And while I was always doing, teaching, speaking about, your listeners, I was always doing some teaching of classes, mostly for no pay, just because I wanted to speak and teach. And I wrote, trade articles, like for trade magazines, and I did some writing, but it was not really a full expression for me. And I felt that's an area where I felt frustrated. It was not a full expression, because what I was writing was business stuff. While I thought that's great, I thought business is a great thing to talk about, but it was like dry and stale, because it was nothing with my heart in it, you could say. So, and then had another breakdown that turned into an immense breakthrough. Was in 2013. I came home one night, and and I told my wife's name is Marilyn. I said, Marilyn, I don't feel well. Let's go to the hospital. And I don't do that. I don't go to the hospital. But we went to the hospital, and after about 4 hours of all kinds of tests, the head of emergency services says, Mr. Sutherland, we've discovered that your right kidney is completely filled with a tumor. And I have a name of a surgeon that you can see in the next 36 hours. So I knew it was serious. So I scheduled, I went in and talked to the doctor. He said, yep, we need to do surgery. So we scheduled surgery. But what was immediately there for me, not only after the diagnosis with the hospital, but after talking to the surgeon, was that there were things that I have learned in my life, particularly about real estate, but also about how to have breakthroughs and dealing with people and dealing with problems on, in projects I was working on, that I resolved that I was going to write a book. I said, I'm going to write a book. Made that determination right there. And even though at the time I was doing a project in North Dakota, I I wrote a book. It turned in, actually it was 3 books, ended up being 3 books on creative real estate, got them published. And then I started teaching, and it was like I was more in the full expression of who I was, out of the fact that I had to deal with, I had that breakdown in my health. So in other words, it was a gift. I didn't say it, but they had surgery. Everything came out completely cleared out. They cut out the kidney, and I had no chemotherapy or radiology. It was done. And so that was, but if I would have delayed and waited, I'd probably be dead. So, but the bottom line, it was a gift. The breakdown was a gift because it had me start doing things I really love to do. And now I decided I'm more and more, I'm not 29. I know that, but I decided decided I was going to teach more, and while I'm still doing real estate development work, I probably well over 50% of my time now is in teaching and writing, and I now have a number of people I've taken on mentoring who have the same. They want to have the same kind of they want to have the same kind of breakthrough in business that I had. So I'm mentoring, and that's been so rewarding. I can hardly tell you. And
I love that. Definitely love the mentoring piece, because it's that each one teach one mentality, that, I made it through something that when we look back, there are many that have not made it through that. They have not come out on the other side writing books, or come out on the other side speaking about their journey. And, we want to go back and be able to say, okay, listen, I was able to make it out of this maze. I want to show you the way out. So when you went back and decided that you were going to write the book and start mentoring, that first mentee that you picked up, what was the experience for you? Was it emotional? Did you keep it just business, or was it business and life mentoring?
Well, it's funny. It's funny that you bring that up. So I decided I was going to mentor. I did some classes, online classes, and in person. I did a lot of in-person classes for real estate groups I was part of after that, 2013. And then I decided I was going to do a 3-day live seminar in Dallas, which is where I live. And I invited the people, some of the people that had come to my courses. And of course it was live, and we had students from all over the country, live in our online courses. So I think we had 6 people come to Dallas and do a 3-day course with me. And I did not intend it to be a transformational event. I really did not. I designed it to be an educational workshop, and I asked, the first question I asked, people were around the table, and I asked a question, which was, so what do you all want to accomplish out of being here this weekend? And that open-ended question let loose a lot. And a woman by the name of Judy Brown at Louisville, and I have permission to share this, out of Louisville, she started talking about her journey and where she was in her career, and that she really wanted to have a breakthrough, and she was not having fun. It was like, life is, a struggle. And, but her being real about that actually gave permission for everybody else in the room to be real about that, what they were dealing with, what they were struggling with. So everybody started talking about that. I didn't ask that question, but out of people sharing what their breakdowns were, so to speak, what they wanted to accomplish, and her starting it, she decided she wanted to do some work with something not in her real estate world, which was do work with our recreational vehicles and as Airbnb sites. And she got excited about that and thrilled, and she went back and actually has formed that business and is doing that right now. And she's just amazing. But out of her sharing as that first share and everybody else sharing, we distinguished that we all were dealing, including me, and I would have said it wasn't there. We were dealing with financial PTSD from the last recession, that in some way, each one of us had lost, something, or maybe in some cases a lot, or in some cases everything. And those people had to start all over. And by getting real about the financial PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, that we were able to, in that setting, form a bond where we created what we wanted for the future. And people out of that course are, that are my mentees. And the following course where we did the same thing, which surprises me because just amazing what people will do when they're in a setting where they can create something new. So on top, out of having been honest about where they really were in life. So anyway, that was what. So all those mentees are in whatever their phase is. They're in the process of opening up their financial life, because we only started doing this last December, the 3-day course we do, and out of that they chose to work with me, and I chose to work with them, and it's like amazing, and it's so fulfilling for me to do something I didn't know exactly what I was missing until I started doing it.
Oh my goodness, that speaks to so many different things. I know I was sitting here, and as you were saying it, the financial PTSD, I said, we normally say, a lot of times we deal with this poverty mindset. Mm-hmm. And depending on your background and where you came from, it can hold you back, because you think, with the poverty mindset, you think you're never going to get more. And so sometimes it makes you make decisions within your business and your brand that are going against where you're trying to go. You end up doing things that you don't love and enjoy. You end up connecting with people that you're not really fond of being around. And I found that a lot of speakers and authors, they come into that same mindset where, because of what I've dealt with in the past with finances, because of what I dealt with in the past, even with relationships, it highly affects my judgment. And, even going back to, you having that moment where you sat there and you were like, just try to, figure it out and kind of make your way through, everything that you had been through. There was a shift that had to happen, a shift in your personal mindset where I'm not looking at everybody else. I'm doing the internal work now.
Yeah. And I can't say I wanted to do the internal work. I just had to do the internal work. It's like,
exactly.
Had to,
Exactly. Most times it's not that we're doing the internal work because we want to, but we're doing it because this is what's going to set the foundation for the next level.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So you just did the 3-day event, you said, back in December, and
right.
You've seen success from that. I know a lot of times we talk about, as speakers and authors, creating our own platform. So I love that you were able to create that platform and that it worked really well for you. Now, do you see yourself making that a yearly event or an event that you're going to travel with?
Right now, let me tell you what the plan is on that. So first of all, I'm still teaching my basic class, which is online, because there's people, I know a lot of people around the country and particularly in the real estate world. And so many of them are coming from there. That learn my basic course I teach is about raising money for real estate transactions. And I just spoke on raising money for your business separate from real estate. But that course is online. I'm teaching it 3 times a year. And then I'm also, at the end of that course, I'm teaching a 3-day 3 times a year. So I'll be doing another 3-day in December. And I do it here because first of all, there's a time at some point, since I've traveled so much, I'd like to be able to manage a 3-day at home, particularly with all the logistics that go into managing a course, creating a course. So we do it at a hotel, and they take care of things, but we have to manage the hotel, so to speak, manage the people. So we do that. I do that now. I have no plans to not do that, and then I just keep adding what I should say, call it like I'm called to do to what I'm doing. It's like I hear a drum, and I'm drum beating, and I'm following that drum. And I decided, somebody told me about telesummits, and I decided, well, I'm going to do a real estate telesummit. And so I created a real estate telesummit. I'd done it once, and then I'm doing that again a week from Thursday. We start a 3-day telesummit with speakers, coming on and talking about. It's focused on real estate. It's called the Real Estate Experts Summit, and that's found. You can find that at .com, but realestateexpertsummit.com is not really ready for registration yet, but will be. But and it's free. But I decided to do that because people want to ask questions of experts, and I decided, well, I know a lot of experts, so I'm going to bring them on, and some of those experts are coming on to talk about, how to have how to build your relationships with potential customers. Well, everybody wants that, for their business, and how do you build your marketing? How do you build your brand for real estate? Well, everybody is looking for brand and relationships. So anyway, the program is awesome, and so this, you can tell that this is what I'm enjoying. I love doing. Still doing the work of my real estate development business, but I'm as my years go along, I see myself more and more doing this as my sole thing, because it's so rewarding, and I see breakthroughs in the people I'm working with.
That speaks volumes. I absolutely love that, because again, once you find that thing that really, brings you joy, that thing, that the piece of it that you're passionate about,
yeah,
you go all in and you see a huge difference. And I think I want to make sure that the audience, really pays attention to that, because when you're connected to what you're passionate about, it's not feeling like work.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, you want to get up in the morning and connect with, your mentees. You want to get up and connect with your clients. But it's also, something that you said earlier on was that you were making more money now than what you were making then. And, sometimes that shift is necessary for us to be able to put ourselves in a position to where this can be a sustainable business. I know a lot of people, when they come in, nobody wants to be the broke entrepreneur. Nobody wants to be the broke speaker or the broke author. But you did make mention that, you have done events where you were speaking for free. You have done trainings that you did for free. It's a balance. But then when you hone in on that one thing, you niche it down and you get targeted and like really laser focused on that one thing, man, it just opens up all of these different opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I'm now more and more convinced that if most people are reticent or slow to want to make a mistake. We're all trying to be very cautious, particularly if we've been burned in the past. Like a cat avoids a hot stove once it's been burnt, So but it's out of everything I've done has been somewhat out of, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to do it anyway. I'll figure it out along the way. And, my wife and I met working on anti-poverty programs, particularly loans for women to have their own businesses. We worked on those as volunteers for years before we even had a date. And that's where we met. But to do the work we were doing, I needed to go talk to my U.S. representative, or go talk to the editorial board of the paper, or go to talk to people of influence. And I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to have a conversation with a member of Congress. I didn't know how to share with somebody about, the difference that microcredit loans make in the world. But I can tell you this, it was also support. I had support from people that coached me on what to do. And when they did that, when I took their coaching, what to say or how to, and we practiced a lot about how we were going to talk to a congressman or talk to a member of the newspaper. We practiced that conversation so that when we went in, we were ready, but we wouldn't have made that choice to go out and talk to somebody that was a member in Congress, and if we hadn't had been willing to fail. And that's a value that I don't hear talked about a lot, being willing to fail in order to ultimately succeed. A child fails walking all the time. A little baby doesn't, it falls down, gets up, falls down, gets up, falls down. What if it had quit? I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't have this failure anymore. Well, we wouldn't be walking today. But the willingness to embrace failure, I think, is a real important quality to develop as an entrepreneur.
Most definitely. Now, one of the things that I often ask anyone who comes onto the show is the question, have you had any blunders, any things that you've gone through in your journey that you can look back now and say, okay, maybe that one wasn't a good idea?
Well, in hindsight, all the failures, how I did them weren't a good idea. Like how I did them, and maybe with whom I did them. Right before the financial crisis of 2000, everybody has a disagreement which year it happened. Happened for different people in different years. Between 2007 and 2010. At 2007, I had made a partnership with somebody to build a hotel in another state, and I had another partner who was lived here in Dallas, and all three of us were pretty much the team for bringing this hotel online. Well, before we were to begin, we had to get a loan, and we told the other partner, now we cannot do any work on this property until we have our loan approved and filed a record. So, so just be patient. We'll get it done. We've got to get this loan handled first. Well, we found out the guys started moving dirt, like road graders, people in there with culverts and concrete and gravel, and he decided that he needed to do that. And so what the thing was is this is something that in terms of business, I don't know how it applies for the speaking business or not, but I realized after the fact, first of all, so ended up all the money I put in that project, we lost. And because he started doing that work, and everything we had, disappeared because he had done that. It was like he did that, and I can go into a lot of more detail about it, but the fault, even though he did all he did, the fault was that I accepted him as a partner without doing what I would call extreme due diligence. I didn't go really deep to find out, oh no, who is this guy? I don't know him. He has a piece of land, yeah, but let's go, maybe we should do some research on him, because if I'd done the research, I would have found that he had done that same kind of deal before, and then he did the same kind of deal after. So it was just his pattern. But the fault was not, it was over with me. And then in how we managed everything as well. Not only the original decision, but then how we managed it. So the blunder was not doing my homework on the people as much as I did my homework on the real estate.
That speaks volumes.
Who you do business with is very important. Very, very important, because you can waste a lot of time and a lot of money and an enormous amount of energy cleaning up cleaning up what happened, the fallout that happens with having picked the wrong person. And it's not that difficult or even that expensive to do a little background check. You know, 90% of it you probably can get on Google. You know, you can probably do a search, find out. You know, you might have to go to page 30 of the searches you're getting. You know, instead of just looking at page 1. But research pays off. Research pays off. So the blunder was not doing the kind of research I do on property that I did on people. So, or the other way around, on people the way I did it on property. So I changed that. I learned from that. That was a very valuable lesson. And if you think about it, you could say that I just paid, and I don't even want to use the number. It's a ridiculously high number. I lost a lot of money in that. Let's just put it that way. But that was a tuition. Figures? What's that?
Is it more than 6 figures?
Yeah. Well, it was a high 6 figures. So, but I learned that lesson. And not only do I not make that mistake again, after that, I coach other people not to make that mistake. You got to do the due diligence. So every failure I've had, or every failure and then other failures that other people have, become something I can teach people how to deal with before they make the mistake. So the mistake, this is one of my big lessons I learned in my life, is that the mistake is access to something better. Something better. There's a book called Think and Grow Rich, and Napoleon Hill wrote that book. I was introduced to it at a very early age, and one of the quotes in there is something I ignored for a long time. It didn't apply to me, I thought, but that is that any failure carries within it the seed of an equivalent benefit. And I'd actually even modify that and say that every failure contains within it the seeds of an equal or greater benefit. And I really believe that. And I've actually demonstrated it in my life, is that failure is not a bad thing. It's just something that happens. And if you use it as a motivator, or as a guide, or as an informational piece, or something you can teach others, then every failure is actually good news, not a failure. It's good news if you use it correctly.
That's a valuable lesson right there. Definitely. If you use it the right way, then it is something that can propel your business. It's something that you can teach to others. And it's something that, again, it goes in, is filed in the arsenal. So that way, okay, no, we're not going to make that same mistake again.
Yeah,
I absolutely love that.
Yeah. So it's kind of like my life right there.
So I absolutely love this discussion. I want to make sure that you let everybody know where they can get the books and how they can get in contact with you if they want more information.
Sure. So the books are on Amazon, in both Kindle and in printed form. So they go to my author page, but my name's Chuck Sutherland, Chuck Sutherland, Sutherland. And if you go looking for real estate, fact is, you might be able to get there with Chuck Sutherland on Amazon.com as your guide, take you there. But and then my email address, if anybody is interested in asking me questions, certainly welcome to call me. Again, this is now what I'm committed to, is helping people. I do charge, but at the same time, somebody wants just some advice. I gave advice yesterday to a guy, for 30 minutes, and I'd be glad to talk to anybody and see if I can help them. No charge, for free to start. But at Chuck at creativerealestatenetwork.com, CHUCK at Creative Real Estate Network, all one word.com. And, but like I say, I love doing it. And, you know, I will make that as an offer that if somebody wants to ask some questions or find out about what they can do and that can support them, they're certainly welcome to send me an email, and I'll at no charge, I'll talk to them and see if I can help.
That speaks volumes about, again, who you are as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. I know for those of you that are listening in, you know, guys, this journey, it comes with its own hiccups. It comes with its own detours and sometimes even distractions. And so learning how to take that and transform it into more revenue, learning how to transform that into motivation, learning how to transform that into a solid foundation for you to get from point A to point B is definitely key to your success. Because if you don't learn how to do those things, then it becomes very detrimental for you as an author and a speaker. The best authors and speakers are telling you stories of their life journey. Like that is what you see at the top. It doesn't matter if they are a content speaker or a keynote or a motivational speaker. It does not matter. They are sharing stories of their personal journey. And that is what directly relates to you as an individual when you're listening in. So that's what I want to make sure that you guys grasp the concept of. If you haven't done so already, make sure that you write down Chuck's information, go and connect with him all over so that way you can see what he is doing in the Texas area when it comes to real estate, as well as when it comes to his next event that's coming up. He has two different things, guys. So he has the summit coming up, and then he also has the event that'll be live in December as well. You guys know that I absolutely love having you guys come in. Thank you so much for all of those who are giving us live comments. We appreciate you guys. And those who are listening to this episode, we want to make sure that you give us a review of how this episode resonated with you. You can do so by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts. I keep wanting to say iTunes. If I go into Speak Easy Podcast Show. That's bit.ly/Speak Easy Podcast Show, all lowercase. And until next time, guys, listen, we appreciate you guys. And don't forget to press it out. See ya.